A biker crashed onto the ER floor, blood pouring from his chest. Lucia Carter dropped her clipboard, shouted, "Get me a crash kit now!" Everyone froze when the man's jacket fell open. A flaming skull patch with the words, "Hell's Angels President." "Don't touch him," a nurse yelled. "That's Maddox. He's already dead." Lucia ignored her, tore open his vest, and slammed her hands on his chest. "Not today," she muttered, pressing hard. The heart monitor screamed flatline. She shocked him once. Nothing. Twice. Then one faint blip. The room gasped. He was alive. Lucia's breath trembled, but the biker's eyes flickered open. "Who are you?" he rasped. She whispered, "The one who didn't let you die." Outside, engines roared. 30 bikes circled the hospital. Lucia glanced toward the window. "What did I just save? The ending will shock you. An unexpected twist is about to unfold right now. Hit subscribe and join the Heart Tales family. Let's check in. 1 for first-time viewer, 2 if you've seen a few, 3 if you never miss. The emergency doors blew open, sunlight flooding the hallway. A man crashed onto the floor, blood soaking through his leather vest. Lucia Carter dropped her clipboard. "Crash cart, now!" The room froze. The vest carried a patch everyone recognized, a red skull with burning wings. "Hell's Angels, President." "Don't touch him!" a nurse shouted. "That's Gabriel Maddox." Lucia ignored her. 2 liters of O negative, she said, cutting through the vest. The wound gaped wide across his ribs. "He's still got a pulse. Move." Outside, engines thundered. Dozens of motorcycles circled the hospital like wolves. Dr. Clara Dean ran in, panic sharp in her voice. "Lucia, what are you doing?" "My job." "That man runs the most dangerous club in the state." Lucia's hands didn't slow. "Right now he's just a body trying not to die." The heart monitor screamed flatline. Lucia grabbed the paddles. "Clear!" "Nothing." She shocked again. Still nothing. The doors burst open once more. 3 men in biker jackets stormed in, led by Rico Vargas, his voice cut like steel. "If he dies, this hospital burns." Lucia's stare didn't flinch. "Then let's make sure he doesn't." Marshal Klein entered seconds later, badge glinting in the light. "Everyone step back," he ordered. "You're harboring a criminal." Lucia didn't move. "He's in cardiac arrest." Klein's voice hardened. "That's not a patient, that's a murderer." She met his gaze. "That's a human being." "Ah." The defibrillator whined again. Lucia's palms were slick with sweat. "Come on," she whispered. "Breathe. 1 jolt. 2. Then, a sound faint, fragile, the monitor blinked back to life. A single heartbeat. Then another. Rico exhaled, tension snapping from his shoulders. Klein's jaw locked. Lucia leaned in. "You're not dying here, Maddox." Blood soaked her scrubs, but her hands stayed steady. "Pressure's stabilizing," she said. Klein stepped closer. "Transfer him to county now." "I'm not letting him rot in this hospital," Clara protested. "He won't survive the move." "Then that's his problem," Klein said coldly. Lucia looked up. "Not while I'm here," Klein smirked. "You're a single mother on probation for debt. Don't gamble with your son's future." Her heart froze for half a second. She knew what that meant. Still, she said, "Get out of my way." Rico stepped forward. "She keeps working. Anyone touches her, they answer to me." Klein's hand hovered near his gun. "Are you threatening law enforcement?" Rico smiled. "Just making conversation." The air vibrated with tension. Then Gabriel's monitor spiked. Lucia moved quickly. "He's crashing again!" Rico's men backed off. Klein sneered. You can't save him! Lucia's jaw set. Watch me! She clamped the bleeding artery with surgical forceps. Suction! Gauze! Her voice rose, cutting through chaos. Minutes bled away. Sweat ran down her face. Then, slowly, the bleeding stopped. The rhythm steadied. Lucia pulled back, chest heaving. We got him! The relief lasted only a moment. Rico's phone buzzed. He frowned. Rival club's on the way. They know he's here. Klein smirked. Well, I guess the problem's solving itself. Lucia glared at him. You'd let men die outside your window if it made your life easier. I'd sleep better, Klein replied. Rico turned to his men. Secure the perimeter. Lucia leaned over the bed. Gabriel, stay with me. His eyelids fluttered open, grey eyes locking on hers. Who are you? The one keeping you alive. He tried to speak again, but couldn't. Lucia pressed a hand to his shoulder. Save your breath. Outside, the engines roared louder, closing in. Clara whispered, They'll break through the security gate any minute. Lucia's voice stayed calm. Then we move him. Klein laughed. Move him where? Lucia wiped the blood from her arm. Someplace they can't find him. Klein's tone turned dark. You're making a mistake you can't undo. She turned to him. So are you by standing between life and mercy. He didn't answer. Lucia grabbed the IV line and shouted, Rico, help me lift him. Rico obeyed without hesitation. Together, they moved Gabriel onto a gurney, tubes trailing. Klein barked into his radio. All units, lock down level 1. Do not let that patient leave this building. But Lucia was already pushing the gurney down the corridor. The sunlight outside flashed through the windows like a strobe. Her pulse matched the wheels rattle against the floor. Clara followed. Lucia, where are you going? Storage wing. No one uses it. That's insane. So is dying in a hallway. They reached a side door marked Authorized Personnel Only. Lucia swiped her badge. The lock clicked. Inside, the air smelled of dust and bleach. She shut the door and bolted it. We buy time, she said. Rico stood guard by the window, hand on his gun. You got 5 minutes before Klein figures this out. Then let's make them count. Lucia checked Gabriel's vitals. BP 90/60, weak but stable. We'll keep him alive until I say otherwise. Gabriel stirred again, eyes glassy. Why? Risk it. Lucia met his gaze. Because someone has to. Outside, sirens wailed. Klein barked orders over the loudspeaker. Lucia Carter, surrender the patient or lose your license. Rico looked at her. What's your play? Keep him breathing, she said simply. For the next 10 minutes, the world narrowed to the rhythm of a failing heart and the roar beyond the glass. Lucia's movements were automatic, precise pressure. Clamp, ventilate, repeat. She didn't think about the danger or her son waiting 2 corridors away in the break room. She thought only of the pulse under her hand, proof that even devils could bleed like men. Then the lights flickered. Rico peeked outside. They're breaching the gate. Lucia tightened the tourniquet. We're almost there. Almost isn't safe. Safe doesn't exist, she said. Alive does. The first explosion came from the parking lot. A flash, a shockwave, the windows trembling. Lucia didn't stop. She pressed one more injection into Gabriel's arm. The monitor steadied. She exhaled hard. He was alive again. For one breath, the chaos outside didn't matter. Lucia looked at him, blood streaking her hands, hair plastered to her face. You're not dying in my care. Gabriel's lips moved, barely audible. Guess you're stuck with me, she almost smiled. Not for long. You're leaving when I say you're ready. Outside, Gunfire crackled under the blinding noon. Sunday, Lucia turned to Rico. We move him now, before the whole town decides who deserves to live. And with that, the single mom who just saved the most feared man in the city pushed him toward the light, unaware that mercy had just made her the most hunted woman in town. The hospital was in chaos. Sirens howled from the parking lot, the floor shook under heavy boots, and somewhere above, the sound of rotors split the noon air. Lucia Carter moved fast down the corridor, pushing the gurney toward the back wing of the hospital. Rico kept pace beside her, pistol drawn, scanning corners. "You sure about this?" he asked. "I'm sure he'll die if we don't." "And you?" Lucia didn't answer. Her hands were slick with blood and sweat, but her focus never wavered. They turned a corner into an abandoned storage ward where old beds collected dust. Lucia slammed the door behind them, locked it with a broom handle, and started working. "Keep him flat," she said. "His BP's falling again." Rico crouched, eyes darting between her and the window. "You ever done this before?" Lucia gave a tight smile. "Not on someone this loud." She grabbed gauze, sutures, antibiotics, whatever she could find in the emergency kit she'd stolen. Gabriel Maddox lay half-conscious, his chest rising unevenly. She injected the line, whispering to herself, "Stay with me, Maddox. Don't make me regret this." Rico adjusted the IV bag. "You don't even know him." "I know a man bleeding to death. That's enough." Rico chuckled darkly. "Lady, you got more guts than sense." "Then we're even," she said. Outside, the muffled bark of orders echoed through the halls. Marshal Klein's voice carried through a megaphone. "Lucia Carter, surrender the patient now, or you will be charged with obstruction." Rico grinned. "Sounds like your boss is making friends." "He's not my boss," Lucia said, tightening the bandage. "And neither are you." Gabriel stirred, eyes barely open. "You're not scared?" Lucia leaned closer. "I don't have time to be scared." He managed a faint smile. "You should run." She shook her head. "Running's for people who don't have someone to protect." From the hallway came a bang, the unmistakable sound of boots kicking a door. Rico moved toward the sound. Lucia stood, grabbed the gurney's metal stand and whispered, "We can't stay here." They moved him again, through a narrow service corridor that smelled of dust and old paint. At the far end, a heavy door opened into daylight, the hospital's delivery dock. Lucia blinked against the glare. The open lot was empty, except for an old ambulance parked under a rusting canopy. "That'll do," she said. Rico hesitated. "You're stealing an ambulance?" "I'm borrowing it," she corrected. They loaded Gabriel inside, every movement timed with his shallow breaths. Lucia climbed into the driver's seat. "You ride in back. Keep him awake if you can." Rico smirked. "If you say so." "Nurse Carter." She started the engine. The ambulance roared to life, and for a second it felt like hope. Then the radio crackled Klein's voice again. "Unit 12, block every exit. The target is in a white ambulance heading east." Lucia cursed under her breath. "He's tracking us." "How?" She reached under the dashboard and yanked a small blinking tracker from the console. "Because he thinks he's the smartest man in the room." She tossed it out the window, floored the accelerator, and the ambulance shot down the ramp into the blinding afternoon. They tore through the service road, tires screeching. The sun flashed off mirrors, painting everything gold and dangerous. Gabriel groaned in the back, his voice a rasp. "You should have left me," Lucia yelled over the siren. "And tell my son his mother let a man die when she could have stopped it." Not happening. Rico peeked through the back window. "We've got company, 2 cruisers." Lucia tightened her grip on the wheel. "Hold on!" She swerved into a construction lane, dust rising around them. The cops followed, sirens wailing. Rico leaned out the window and fired 2 warning shots into the air. The cruisers backed off for a second, enough for Lucia to veer down a narrow dirt path. The ambulance bounced hard, metal rattling. "You're gonna flip us!" Rico shouted. "Not today," she said. Finally, they burst out onto a dry riverbed, sunlight reflecting off sand and broken glass. Lucia killed the siren, cut the engine, and let the vehicle roll to a stop under a bridge. The sound of pursuit faded behind them. Silence. Lucia exhaled for the first time in hours. "We're clear. For now." Rico checked Gabriel's pulse. "He's fading. Then help me." Together, they laid him on a stretcher and rechecked the stitches. His pulse fluttered weakly. Lucia mixed saline and adrenaline, injecting it slow. "Come on, Maddox. You didn't fight the world just to die in a stolen ambulance." Rico laughed once. "He'd like you. Nobody talks to him like that." Lucia's tone was flat. "Maybe that's the problem." A small noise came from outside the crunch of gravel. Rico drew his gun instantly. "We've got company!" Lucia peeked through the slit of light. A patrol car rolled past above them, sunlight glinting off the badge. They stayed silent until it was gone. Lucia turned back. "We can't stay here. We need a place with supplies and quiet." Rico hesitated. "There's a cabin. 20 miles north, no one uses it." "Good," Lucia said. "Get us there." Rico looked at her. "You realize if the boss dies, every man who followed him will think you did it." "Then we don't let him die." They switched seats. Rico drove while Lucia held pressure on the wound, counting every breath. The road shimmered in the heat, stretching endlessly ahead. When the tires hit pavement again, Gabriel stirred. His eyes opened just enough to find hers. "You risked everything," he whispered. She kept her hand on his chest. "Then make it worth it." For a few miles no one spoke. The sun beat down through the windshield, a white blaze over a wounded world. Lucia's phone buzzed a message from an unknown number. "Your son is safe, for now." Her stomach twisted. "Klein." Rico caught the look on her face. "What's wrong?" "Nothing we can fix right now." She pocketed the phone. "Drive faster." The cabin appeared near dusk, hidden behind tall pines and broken fences. Dust rose as they pulled in. Lucia jumped out, opened the door and shouted, "Help me get him inside!" They carried Gabriel through the doorway, his weight heavy but alive. Lucia laid him on an old couch, hands trembling. "He's still breathing." Rico set down his weapon, breathing hard. "You're something else, Carter." Lucia didn't look up. "You keep calling me that like it's an insult." He grinned. "It's respect." Gabriel's voice cracked through the air. "Where am I?" Lucia leaned down, exhaustion softening her tone. "Someplace you can heal." His eyes searched hers for a long second. "You should have walked away." She smiled faintly. "Maybe, but I don't walk away from people who still have a heartbeat." Outside, the last light faded into the trees. Inside, the sound of that heartbeat, slow, fragile, human, filled the quiet. Morning sunlight slipped through the cabin windows, cutting across Gabriel Maddox's face. He stirred, the air catching in his lungs like gravel. Every breath hurt. Across the room, Lucia Carter sat at a wooden table, cleaning a syringe with methodical precision. When he tried to speak, his throat cracked. "Where are we?" Lucia didn't look up. "Somewhere the world can't find you. Drink this." She held out a cup of water. His hand shook when he reached for it. She steadied it for him. He winced. "You should have left me." She tied a bandage tighter around his chest. "I tried. You kept breathing." He laughed weakly. then groaned. "How long have I been out?" 18 hours. You had a fever. Almost lost you twice. Then you should have let go. I don't kid easy." She checked his vitals. Pulse strong, temperature down. He was healing faster than she expected. "You're lucky," she said. "The bullet missed your heart." Luck had nothing to do with it. His eyes met hers. "You did." Lucia didn't answer. She packed away the supplies and stood, brushing the dust off her scrubs. "You need rest, not flattery." Outside, engines echoed faintly through the valley. Rico leaned against his bike, scanning the tree line. When Lucia stepped out, he handed her a canteen. "Road's quiet. Too quiet." "They'll be looking for him," she said. "They'll be looking for you too." Lucia squinted toward the horizon. "Then let's hope they don't find either." Back inside, Gabriel's voice called weakly. "Rico!" His second-in-command entered. "Yeah, boss." "Status?" Rico shrugged. "The crew's scattered. The cops froze our accounts. Klein's got people watching every road. You're a ghost." Gabrielle smirked. "Good. Ghosts don't bleed." Rico looked at Lucia. "He's got jokes again. That's a good sign, right?" "Only if he lives long enough to laugh twice," she said. When she turned to leave, Gabriel spoke again. "You got a kid." Lucia froze. "What makes you think that?" "The way you look at the clock. The way you never sleep. People don't risk this much unless they're trying to protect someone." She didn't reply. "I read faces for a living," he said. "Yours says you've got someone waiting." Lucia met his gaze. "And yours says you've broken more promises than you've kept." He smiled faintly. "You're not wrong." As the morning burned brighter, Lucia stepped outside and found Rico dismantling his gun on the porch. "How long can we stay here?" she asked. 2 days at best," he said. "The moment word spreads that the boss is breathing, every rival within 100 miles will come to finish the job. Then we move before that." "Move where?" She hesitated. "My old friend runs a clinic in the next county. She owes me a favor." Rico shook his head. "You'd risk her life too?" Lucia's voice softened. "People saved me once when I didn't deserve it. Guess it's contagious." Inside, Gabriel tried to sit up. Pain flashed across his face. Lucia rushed back in. "Don't be stupid," she said, pushing him down. "I'm done hiding. You're barely standing." "I don't hide," he growled. "Then you'll die out there," she snapped. He stared at her, breathing hard. Then his tone changed. "Why do you care?" Lucia's eyes met his. "Because someone should." He looked away first. "You talk like someone who's seen a war." "I have," she said quietly. "Different uniforms, same kind of men." Rico reappeared, holding his phone. "Klein's made it official. You're both wanted harboring a fugitive, aiding obstruction." Lucia muttered. "Of course he did." "He's playing dirty," Rico said. "He put out a custody order for your kid. Said you're unfit." Lucia froze. The world narrowed to a pulse in her ears. "What did you just say?" "Klein's using your boy to bait you." "I heard it on the scanner." Gabriel's jaw tightened. "That bastard!" Lucia's voice turned to steel. "Then we end this before he does." Rico frowned. "How?" "You're a nurse, not a soldier." Lucia met his stare. "You'd be surprised what I used to be." Gabriel studied her for a long moment. "You were military." Army medic. Afghanistan. 5 years." "That explains the hands," he murmured. "It explains why I don't panic when men start bleeding," she said. Silence hung between them until Gabriel spoke again. "You saved my life. That makes us even." Lucia shook her head. "No, it doesn't. It makes me a target." He smiled faintly. "Then you're under my protection." "I don't want your protection." "Too bad." You've got it. Rico looked between them. Boss, we need to move before sundown. Agreed, Gabriel said. But we don't move until she says I can. Lucia folded her arms. You'll be stable by tonight. After that, you're on your own. Gabriel smirked. You really think you can walk away from this? I have before. She left the room, but his voice followed. You saved me for a reason, Lucia. Figure out what it was before someone else decides for you. Outside, the sun hit its zenith. Heat shimmered over the valley. Lucia stood by the old fence, staring into the light. Her phone buzzed again. A new message. No name. Eli is safe. For now. We talk tonight. Her breath caught. Klein was watching her every move. Rico approached quietly. You okay? Lucia pocketed the phone. Fine. You lie as good as the boss. Then maybe I'm learning. Inside, Gabriel struggled to his feet. He walked to the window, one hand pressed against his ribs, watching Lucia through the glass. Something in her stillness unnerved him. She wasn't a woman hiding from the world. She was a woman preparing for it. He turned to Rico. She doesn't belong in this mess. Rico shrugged. Neither do you, boss, but here we are. Lucia re-entered, wiping her hands. You're strong enough to travel. We leave before dark. Gabriel nodded. Where to? Someplace where daylight still means safety, she said. He looked at her, almost smiling. You keep talking like light fixes everything, Lucia replied quietly. Only if you stop running from it. End V. Outside, the sound of engines drifted faintly across the desert, distant, but getting closer. Lucia turned toward the door. Pack what you need. We don't get a second chance. For a long moment, Gabriel watched her move, precise, unflinching, alive. The woman who had saved him now stood between him and every ghost waiting outside. He didn't know yet that her kindness would cost her everything. He only knew that for the first time in years, someone had risked their soul to keep his heart beating. And that kind of debt never dies quietly. By mid-afternoon, the heat shimmered like smoke. Lucia Carter loaded medical supplies into an old duffel, her motions sharp and deliberate. Gabriel Maddox watched from the doorway, the desert light cutting hard lines across his face. You're leaving, he said. I'm getting antibiotics, she answered. You're still septic. Huh. I told Rico to handle it. He doesn't know which end of a syringe to use. You don't go alone, Gabriel said. Lucia zipped the bag and turned. You can barely stand. Then I'll crawl. She met his stare. You're not in charge here. Rico leaned on his bike outside, pretending to check his gun. I'll go with her, he said. Gabriel nodded reluctantly. Be fast. Oh. Lucia didn't see the way Rico's eyes flicked toward the horizon, or how his thumb brushed the phone in his pocket like a secret. They drove the battered truck toward the nearest town, 20 miles of dirt and silence between them. Lucia kept her eyes on the road. If you're going to glare at me all day, at least make it useful. Rico smirked. You don't like company? I don't like being followed. Maybe I'm just making sure you come back. Or making sure I don't, she said. The town appeared like a mirage, a gas station, a pharmacy, 2 boarded-up shops. Lucia parked near the edge of the lot. Stay here. Not a chance. Inside, the pharmacy was half empty, air thick with the hum of old lights. The pharmacist, a thin man with sunburned skin, eyed Lucia's uniform. You from the hospital? Formally, she said. I need Cipro, 4, grade. He frowned. That's restricted. Not for emergencies. She slid cash across the counter. And this is one, he hesitated, then vanished into the back room. Lucia glanced toward the front window. Rico stood outside, phone pressed to his ear. She couldn't hear his words, but she saw his shoulders stiffen, his head tilt slightly like someone receiving instructions. When the pharmacist returned, Lucia snatched the bag and hurried out. Rico was still by the truck, sliding his phone away. "Who was that?" she asked. "No one. You're a terrible liar." He smiled. "Then stop asking questions you don't want answered." She got in the truck, started the engine, and drove. Dust swirled behind them. 10 miles out, she noticed the silence. No wind, no birds, only the faint hum of tires. Then she saw the black SUV in the rearview mirror, closing fast. Rico cursed under his breath. "Keep driving. You expecting company?" "Not this kind." The SUV accelerated. Lucia's pulse quickened. "Who are they?" "Rivals. Maybe cops. Doesn't matter." It matters if they kill us." He grabbed his gun. "Then don't slow down." Bullets cracked against the rear window. Lucia swerved, glass shattering across her arms. "Hold on." She turned hard onto a service road, the truck fishtailing. Dust blinded them. Rico fired through the back window, shouting over the noise. "Left! Go left! I can't see." "Then drive toward the light." The truck slammed into a ditch, jolting them forward. Lucia's forehead hit the wheel. Her vision blurred. Rico reached for her arm. "We have to move." 2 figures stepped out of the SUV, guns drawn, sunlight glinting off badges. Not bikers, cops. Marshal Klein's voice carried across the sand. "End of the road, Carter!" Lucia froze. "You set me up!" Rico didn't deny it. His voice was low. "I made a deal. Keep the boss alive, deliver you, walk away clean." Her stomach turned. "You sold him out too. Only one of us gets to live free." Klein shouted again. "Bring her forward, Rico!" "I do." Rico raised his gun. "Get out of the truck." Lucia stared at him, disbelief hardening into anger. "You're not this stupid. Don't make me choose." "You already did," she said, and slammed her foot on the gas. The truck lurched forward, sand flying. Rico fired once into the air, yelling, "She's running!" Klein's men opened fire. Tires burst, the truck spun out, and Lucia was thrown sideways. The world went white. When she woke, her wrists were bound with zip ties. Klein crouched beside her, sunglasses glinting. "You've caused a mess, Miss Carter." Lucia spat dust. "You're the mess," he chuckled. "You think saving Maddox makes you noble? It makes you useful." Behind him, Rico paced, restless. Klein tossed Lucia's phone to him. "Text the boss. Tell him you found medicine. Tell him to come alone." Rico hesitated. "He won't buy it." "Then make him." Lucia's voice was hoarse. "He'll kill you for this." Rico looked down at her. "He already did, years ago. I just haven't stopped breathing yet." Klein straightened. "When Maddox gets here, we end this. No more headlines, no more heroes." He walked away, leaving her in the dirt. Lucia flexed her wrists, cutting skin against the plastic. A shard of glass glimmered near her hand. Slowly, carefully, she dragged it closer. Rico noticed too late. "Don't!" She slashed the tie and lunged, tackling him. The gun fired once, wild. They rolled in the dust. She elbowed his jaw, ripped the pistol free, and aimed. Klein turned, startled. "Shoot her!" Lucia fired first. The bullet tore through the sand near his boots. He ducked, returning fire. Rico scrambled up, shouting, "Stop! Don't kill her! She's bait!" Lucia ran. The desert stretched endless and white. Behind her, Klein shouted into his radio, "Target on foot! Send units!" She stumbled toward the rocks, lungs burning, bullets cutting the air around her. A shadow passed overhead, the sound of engines. Deep, and thunderous. Lucia looked up. A convoy of bikes crested the ridge, sunlight flashing off chrome. Gabriel Maddox led the charge. He rode straight through the gunfire, gravel spraying beneath his tires. The roar of his engine drowned every other sound. Klein's men scattered as the bikers closed in. Rico froze, hands trembling. "Boss." Gabriel dismounted in one motion, grabbed Rico by the collar, and drove him into the dirt. "You sold us." Rico's voice broke. "They had her kid, boss. They said they'd kill him." Gabriel's fist hit once, hard enough to crack bone. "You don't trade loyalty for fear." Lucia shouted, "Gabriel, stop! They'll kill you!" But Klein already had his gun raised. "Drop it, Maddox!" Gabriel turned slowly, eyes cold. "You first!" The shot came like thunder. Klein fell backward, clutching his shoulder. The bikers surrounded the scene. Sunlight cut through the dust. Lucia knelt beside Rico, who lay coughing blood. "Why?" she whispered. He managed a broken laugh. "Because everyone wants out, even from family." He went still. Gabriel looked at her, breathing hard. "You should have stayed away." Lucia's hands trembled. "So should you." Sirens echoed in the distance again, more coming. Gabriel met her eyes. "We're out of time." "Then we run," she said. "No," he replied. "We ride." "No." And under the merciless sun, the engines roared to life, carrying them back into the dust, two fugitives bound by blood, betrayal, and a heartbeat that refused to stop. The safe house sat at the edge of nowhere, a forgotten farmhouse surrounded by dry fields and silence. The engines died one by one, leaving only wind and dust. Lucia Carter climbed off the bike, her arms stiff, her face streaked with dirt. Gabriel Maddox dismounted beside her, moving slower, still favoring his injured side. They had ridden all night to shake pursuit. When the sun rose, the house emerged from the fog like something pulled from another life-cracked paint, broken fence, a roof still holding because it refused to fall. Lucia stepped through the doorway first. The air smelled of dust, wood, and something old but familiar safety. "We can make this work," she said. Gabriel nodded once. "Work fast." Ryder, the biker who'd helped them escape, parked near the barn. "No one's followed. But you won't stay hidden long." Gabriel handed him a folded note. "Take this to the crew. Tell them to go dark." Ryder hesitated. "Boss, what about you? Consider me gone." When the last engine faded, silence filled the world again. Lucia moved to the kitchen, found a few clean pans, and started boiling water from the well. Gabriel leaned against the wall, watching her. "You ever stop moving?" "Only when someone's dying." He smirked faintly. "Guess that's me." "Oh? You're alive," she said. "Try to stay that way." She cut his bandages, cleaned the wound. He didn't flinch. "You've done this before." "Too many times." "Army?" "Yeah." "Medic." "Explains the eyes," he said quietly. "You've seen the worst of people and still keep helping them." Lucia looked up, met his gaze. "Someone has to." They sat in silence for a moment. Sunlight spilled through the window, catching the dust between them. "I never thanked you," Gabriel said. "Don't start now." "And you saved my life twice. You get a thank you." "I didn't do it for you." He tilted his head. "Then for who?" Lucia hesitated. "For my son. I want him to grow up knowing mercy still matters." A faint sound came from the back room, a soft creak, small footsteps. Gabriel reached instinctively for his gun. Lucia raised a hand. "It's okay." A boy peeked around the doorway. 7 years old, dark hair, wide eyes. Eli. Lucia's heart clenched. "Eli, stay there." "I?" Gabriel's eyes softened, confusion mixing with recognition. "You brought your kid?" "He was hiding in the hospital. I couldn't leave him." Eli stepped into the light. "Are you the man my mom saved?" Gabriel crouched slowly, voice low. "Guess that makes me lucky." Eli studied him. "You don't look lucky." Gabriel smiled, the first real one she'd seen. "You sound like your mother." Lucia exhaled. "Eli, go help me with water, okay?" He nodded and disappeared back through the door. Gabriel leaned back in the chair. "He's brave. He's been through enough to be." "What happened to his father?" Lucia's hands tightened around the basin. "He left. Some people don't know how to stay when things get hard." Gabriel's tone softened. "I used to be that kind of man." "Used to be?" He looked toward the window, eyes distant. "My sister died because of me. Drugs, bad people. I told myself I was protecting her by keeping her close. But the life I built it killed her." "One." Lucia's voice was quiet. "You can't carry that forever." "I don't know how to let it go." "You start by not repeating it." He looked at her. "You think I can change?" "I think people who bleed can still heal." The room went still. Outside, the wind rustled through dead grass like a whisper. Later that day, Lucia cooked with whatever she found: canned beans, dry rice, a miracle meal. Eli sat near Gabriel, drawing with a broken pencil. "What are you making?" Gabriel asked. "A bike," Eli said proudly. "But not the scary kind." Gabriel smiled. "There's a not scary kind?" "Yeah, one that helps people." Lucia watched them, something unfamiliar flickering inside her chest, the quiet rhythm of peace. As afternoon light slanted through the window, Gabriel tried to stand. "I should help. You should rest," she said. "Can't sit still, not in my nature." Lucia handed him a broom. "Then make yourself useful." He swept while she fixed the roof leak. They didn't speak much, but the silence between them was no longer sharp. It felt shared. When dusk came, they sat on the porch. The horizon burned orange. Gabriel leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You ever think about leaving this place? Starting over?" "Every day," Lucia said. "But the world doesn't forget people like us." "Maybe it doesn't need to. Maybe it just needs to forgive." "Forgiveness doesn't come easy. Neither does dying. We've both done that enough times." She turned to look at him. "You really think there's a way out for you?" He shrugged. "Didn't think there was one for you either." The words hung in the air, fragile and true. Night settled slow. Eli fell asleep on the couch, a blanket tucked under his chin. Lucia watched him breathe. Gabriel sat nearby, silent. "You ever wonder," she said softly, "why people like us cross paths?" "Fate," he said. "I don't believe in fate." "Then call it coincidence." Coincidence doesn't bleed this much." He smiled. "You talk like a poet." "I talk like someone who's tired." Gabriel reached into his jacket, pulled out a small silver chain. "This was my sister's," he said. "I carried it like a curse, but maybe it's time someone else held it." He placed it on the table beside her. Lucia stared at it, then pushed it back. "You keep it. You still need something to remind you who you were." He nodded slowly. "And you?" "I've got Eli." "That's enough." "Oh." Outside, an owl cried into the dark. Inside, the house felt almost like home. Before sleep, Gabriel whispered, "Thank you, Lucia." "For what?" "For giving a man like me a second chance." She looked toward him. "Don't waste it." He smiled faintly. "Not this time." Lucia lay awake long after the lights went out, the sound of his breathing steady in the next room. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. And for the first time in his life, Gabriel Maddox didn't dream of death, only of sunlight, mercy, and a boy who wanted to build a bike that wasn't scary. The morning began in silence. Lucia Carter brewed coffee over the old stove while sunlight crept through the window, painting the cabin gold. Eli hummed quietly as he drew by the table, the air thick with that fragile calm that only comes before a storm. Gabriel Maddox stepped onto the porch, shirt half-buttoned, still moving slow but stronger than the day before. He scanned the tree line, breathing in the stillness. "Too quiet," he murmured. Lucia joined him with 2 mugs. "That's what peace sounds like. Peace doesn't last," he said, eyes fixed on the horizon. Before she could answer, a low vibration rolled through the ground, the distant growl of engines. Lucia's chest tightened. "Please tell me that's your crew." "Mun." Gabriel's jaw clenched. "It's not." The first shot came from the ridge, punching through the porch post. Wood splintered. Lucia ducked, dragging Gabriel down. "Get inside!" Eli screamed from the doorway. "Mom! Run to the back room!" she yelled. Another shot shattered the window. Gabriel grabbed the shotgun, leaning by the wall. "How'd they find us?" "Klein," Lucia said, pulling open the medicine box. "He must have tracked Rico's phone." "Oh!" Outside, engines roared closer, 6 bikes, followed by black trucks kicking up clouds of dust. Gabriel peered through the shattered glass. "That's not cops, that's the vultures." Lucia loaded the shotgun and threw him extra shells. "Does it matter?" he smirked. "Only that they're worse shots." The first truck rammed the fence. Wood exploded. Lucia shoved a cabinet against the door, breathing hard. "We can't hold them long." Gabriel checked his ammo. "We don't need long." A grenade clattered through the broken window. Lucia snatched it, hurled it back outside, dove to the floor. The explosion ripped through the yard, shaking the walls. Eli cried out from the back room. "Mom!" Lucia crawled toward him. "Stay down, baby, don't move." Gabriel fired twice through the front door, the thunder of his shotgun echoing through the house. "2 down," he muttered. Lucia reached the bedroom where Eli hid under the bed, trembling. She cupped his face. "You're safe. Do you hear me?" "Promise." "I promise." Outside, a voice boomed through a loudspeaker. "Maddox, you've got nowhere to go. Hand over the nurse and the kid and maybe we let you crawl out alive." Lucia froze. "They know about Eli." Gabriel reloaded, teeth gritted. "They won't touch him." "How can you be sure?" "Because I'm still breathing." Lucia turned, eyes fierce. "You brought this here." He met her glare. "And I'll end it." The wall shook as another explosion tore through the front yard. Dust filled the air. Gabriel staggered but stayed upright. "Back window," he said. "We get the kid out. Take the bikes." Lucia nodded, grabbed Eli's hand, and led him toward the kitchen. The roar of engines grew deafening. As they reached the door, bullets shredded the frame. Lucia fell, gasping, blood on her arm. "I'm fine," she said through her teeth. Gabriel fired back, covering them. "Go!" They burst into daylight, heat, dust, chaos. 3 bikers advanced through the smoke, rifles raised. Gabriel took down 2, but the third returned fire, clipping his shoulder. He barely flinched. Lucia pulled Eli behind a water tank, tearing her sleeve to wrap the wound. "You have to move," she said. Gabriel grinned through the pain. "I'm moving." Another explosion rocked the ground, the barn catching fire. Flames rose fast, orange against the brutal blue sky. Lucia shouted over the noise, "We can't outrun them!" Gabriel's eyes narrowed. "Then we don't run." He limped toward the truck wreck near the fence, yanked a fuel can from the back. "Get Eli to the bikes." "What are you doing?" "Buying time." Lucia's voice broke. "You'll die." Maybe, but not before they do. He poured fuel across the ground, sparks from gunfire lighting the edges. Fire spread quick, crawling toward the porch. Lucia dragged Eli to the shed where two bikes waited. "Mom, what's happening?" Eli cried. Lucia forced her voice steady. "Just hold on tight." Gabriel stepped into the open yard, fire reflecting in his eyes. The vultures slowed, their leader shouting, "You think you can burn us out, Maddox?" Gabriel pumped the shotgun once. "No, just evening the odds." He fired into the flames. The explosion ripped through the air, a shockwave throwing men and metal aside. Lucia shielded Eli as debris rained down. "Gabriel!" she screamed. When the smoke cleared, he was on one knee, blood streaking his arm but alive. "Told you," he coughed. "Can't kill a ghost." Sirens wailed in the distance. The survivors of the attack fled, leaving behind twisted bikes and smoke curling into the Sunday. Lucia ran to him. "You're bleeding out." He smiled faintly. "You said that yesterday. This time, I mean it." She tore open a medical kit, pressing gauze to his wound. "Stay with me." His voice was faint. "You keep saying that." Because it keeps working." Eli knelt beside them, small hands trembling. "Is he gonna be okay?" Lucia looked at her son, forcing calm into her voice. "Yeah, baby, he's tough." Gabriel's eyes flickered open, catching hers. "You lie better than me. Then stop giving me reasons to." The sirens grew louder, Klein's reinforcements. Lucia glanced toward the road. "They'll be here any minute." Gabriel coughed. "Let them. They'll see what daylight does to darkness." She shook her head. "We're not done yet." He tried to stand but stumbled. Lucia caught him, looping his arm over her shoulders. Together, they limped toward the bikes. "Mom, they'll find us," Eli whispered. Lucia looked down at him. "Then they'll have to catch us first." She helped Gabriel onto the nearest bike, strapping the medical kit to the side. "You ride, I follow." He frowned. "You trust me with him?" Lucia met his eyes. "You've already proven you'll die before you let anyone hurt him. That's enough." For a moment, the firelight danced between them, a silent understanding forged in chaos. Gabriel started the engine. "You're insane." "Probably," she said. "Now go." They roared away from the burning house just as the first police cars appeared on the ridge. Klein stepped out of his cruiser, jaw tight, watching the black smoke twist into the noon sky. "They won't get far," he muttered, but as the bikes disappeared into the sunlight, Lucia glanced back one last time, the safe house collapsing into flames, the past burning with it. Beside her, Eli clung tighter. Ahead of her, Gabriel's silhouette cut against the blazing horizon. For now, they were alive. And sometimes, that was enough. By noon, the sun burned white above the courthouse. The roar of engines echoed off the glass towers as Gabriel Maddox rode through the city with Lucia Carter and her son behind him. People turned to watch a legend returning to face judgment in daylight. The courthouse steps were already lined with officers. Marshal Klein stood at the top, suit spotless, smile sharp. "I didn't think you'd be stupid enough to show," he called. Gabriel parked his bike, the engine dying with a growl. "Guess we both miscalculated." Lucia dismounted, clutching Eli's hand. The boy's eyes were wide, frightened, but silent. Around them, reporters raised cameras, microphones flashing like weapons. Klein's voice boomed. "Surrender now, Maddox, and maybe I let the nurse walk away." Lucia stepped forward. "He's not the criminal here. You are." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Klein raised an eyebrow. "Careful, Miss Carter. You're one accusation away from a cell." Ryder and two bikers emerged from the crowd. "We've got proof," Ryder shouted. He held up a USB drive. Rico recorded everything: Klein's deals, his orders, his lies. Reporters surged forward. "Is this true, Marshal?" Klein's smile faltered. "Those files are fabricated." Gabriel climbed 2 steps, his voice low but clear. "You've been hiding behind your badge too long," Lucia shouted. "Play it!" A journalist plugged the drive into her camera. The courthouse screens lit up, Klein's voice echoing, "Frame Maddox, use the nurse, make it look like justice." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Officers turned uncertain. Klein's mask cracked. "You don't understand," he hissed. "These people—" Gabriel cut him off. "No more excuses." He turned to the crowd. "We all bleed. Some of us just stopped pretending our hands were clean." Lucia saw something shift in the faces around them, disbelief melting into outrage. Cameras rolled. Justice, for once, had witnesses. Klein's hand twitched toward his gun. Lucia froze. Gabriel stepped between him and the crowd. "You want me? Take the shot." Klein fired. The sound shattered the square. Gabriel stumbled but stayed on his feet, blood blooming across his ribs. The crowd screamed. Lucia ran forward, catching him as he fell to one knee. Klein aimed again, but the nearest officers lunged, knocking him down. His weapon clattered across the marble steps. The chant rose instantly, fierce and raw. "Justice! Justice!" Lucia pressed her hands to Gabriel's wound. "Stay with me," she whispered. He managed a faint smile. "You always say that, because it keeps working." Eli clung to her arm, sobbing quietly. "Mom, he's hurt." Lucia's voice shook. "He'll live. He has to." Paramedics pushed through the chaos, lifting Gabriel onto a stretcher. The crowd parted as they carried him inside, sunlight glinting off the blood on his chest, proof of everything he'd refused to run from. Klein was dragged away in cuffs, shouting into the noise. Cameras caught every word. The same daylight he'd used to manipulate now stripped him bare. Lucia stood frozen on the courthouse steps, Eli's hand gripping hers. Reporters shouted questions. "Did you really save him? Why risk your life for a criminal?" She turned toward the cameras, her face calm. "Because no one else would." The chant grew louder, echoing across the square, a sound of something breaking free. Inside the ambulance, Gabriel's voice barely rose above the sirens. "You were right," he murmured. Lucia leaned close. "About what?" "Daylight doesn't lie." He smiled faintly, eyes closing as the doors swung shut. Lucia watched the ambulance vanish down the sunlit street, the crowd still roaring behind her. For the first time in a long time, she believed him. The darkness hadn't won. Daylight had. A year later, the courthouse stood quiet beneath the noon sun, the same place where the world had watched blood and truth collide. The marble steps were lighter now, scrubbed clean, but nothing truly erased the echoes that lived there. Lucia Carter stood across the street, her son Eli's hand in hers. The city moved slower these days. People didn't whisper the name Maddox with fear anymore. They said it with something closer to respect, the kind reserved for ghosts who left the world better than they found it. "Mom," Eli asked, gazing up at the courthouse, "is that where it happened?" Lucia nodded. "Yeah. And, quote, where the bad guy went to jail." Her smile was small. "Where the truth came out." Marshal Klein had been sentenced to 20 years for conspiracy and corruption. The footage Ryder released had become a public record, taught in law schools as an example of sunlight justice. The city called it reform. Lucia called it survival. They walked toward a new clinic built on the edge of town, small, bright, painted white against the sand. The sign out front read, "Redemption Medical Center, founded by L. Carter." Inside, sunlight poured across clean floors and walls lined with photos. Not of celebrities or donors, but of survivors. People she'd treated. People who had chosen to live. Lucia hung her coat and smiled at the mourning patients, a mechanic with a burn, a teenage girl with bruises she no longer hid, a veteran learning to breathe again. She treated them all the same way, gently, as if daylight itself had a heartbeat. Eli sat at the reception desk, scribbling homework. "Mom," he said, "can I tell you something?" "Always. I had a dream last night. There was a man on a motorcycle, driving through the clouds." Lucia's hands stilled. "What did he look like?" "I don't know." He waved. He wasn't scary. Her throat tightened. "Sounds like someone I used to know." Hell looked up. "Do you miss him?" She hesitated. "Sometimes. But missing someone means they mattered." Eli nodded, his small face thoughtful. "Do you think he's happy now?" Lucia smiled softly. "If peace exists, he's found it." The day moved gently. Patients came and went. Lucia's rhythm never changed. Steady, grounded, calm. Around noon, she took a short walk outside. The desert stretched wide and gold, the sky so bright it seemed endless. She closed her eyes, listening. That's when she heard it, a faint echo of engines somewhere beyond the hills. It came and went like a memory, too soft to prove, too clear to deny. She didn't turn. She just whispered, "Ride safe, Gabriel." When she walked back inside, there was a package waiting on her desk. No return address, just her name, written in sharp black ink. She opened it carefully. Inside lay a leather patch, worn and faded, a winged skull, the words, "Hell's Angels, President." Beneath it, a folded note in handwriting she recognized instantly. "You once told me daylight heals everything. You were right. Keep the light running. G.M." Lucia stared at it for a long time, the world narrowing to the heartbeat in her chest. Then she smiled, quiet, tearful, proud. She didn't frame the patch. She placed it in the drawer with Eli's drawings, beside the stethoscope she'd used that first day in the ER. That night, the sky turned violet. Lucia sat on the porch of the clinic, watching Eli chase fireflies in the yard. The laughter that once sounded like fear had become freedom. Across the road, a stranger parked a motorcycle at the gas station. He filled the tank, kept his helmet on, never looked her way. But when he started the engine, he turned slightly, just enough for the light to catch the scar near his jaw. Her breath caught. The man revved the bike once, then rode off into the horizon without a word. Eli ran to her side. "Who was that?" She smiled. "Just someone passing through." "Was he a friend?" Lucia looked toward the disappearing trail of dust. "Yeah," she whispered. "The kind that never really leaves." Days turned to weeks, and the clinic became a refuge for those who had nowhere left to go. People came with stories of violence, loss, redemption. Lucia never asked how they got there. She just listened, stitched, and healed. One afternoon, a young woman with trembling hands walked in. "Are you the nurse from the courthouse?" she asked. Lucia nodded. "That was a long time ago. I watched it live," the woman said. "You made me believe people could change." Lucia smiled softly. "They can, but not alone." As the woman left, Lucia returned to her desk and found another letter, this one addressed simply to Eli. Inside were only 4 words, written in the same rough handwriting. "Build something not scary." Eli grinned when she read it aloud. "That's what I told him." "I know," she said. "Maybe he listened." That evening, the desert wind carried the smell of rain, rare, clean, electric. Lucia stepped outside, letting the drops cool her skin. For the first time in years, she didn't look back at what was lost. She looked forward to what could still be saved. In the fading light, she whispered, "Thank you." She didn't know if it was to Gabriel, to fate, or to daylight itself. Maybe all three. And somewhere far beyond the hills, a single headlight glowed against the horizon, moving steady, unbroken, like a promise that refused to die. Because some stories don't end when the danger does. They end when the heart learns how to keep going. Lucia Carter had saved a man's life once. But in the end, he had given her something greater, proof that mercy doesn't make you weak. It makes you unstoppable. The world had called him an outlaw. She had called him human. And under the blazing sky, where the road stretched forever, both truths finally met. Daylight held. The desert fades into gold, and the last echo of an engine disappears beyond the horizon. Lucia watches the sunlight settle across the road, the same road where it all began. Some stories end in chaos, others in silence. But this one ends in light. Because sometimes the people we save don't stay, they change us. And that's enough. Gabriel Maddox may be gone, but what he left behind still rides through every life Lucia touches. And maybe that's the truest kind of redemption, when mercy outlives the moment. If this story reached you, take a second to share what it meant to you. Do you believe people like Gabriel can truly change? Tell us below your words. Keep this community alive. Thank you for watching and for believing that compassion still wins, even in a world built on fear. Subscribe to Heart Tales for more stories of courage, forgiveness, and the kind of light that refuses to fade. And when this one ends, don't go far. There are more Heart Tales waiting for you right now on the end screen.